You made the heavens, planted the earth, gave us stars for direction. But what was it worth if we don't have love? Oh, your perfect love. You filled the oceans, painted the sky, gave us each other. So tell me why, why we're lacking love. Oh, why we're lacking love. Love. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Yeah, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, you can prophesy, speak in the tongues you made, but if you don't have compassion, how will they understand that we were made from love? Oh, we were made from love. Oh, yeah. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Oh, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Time to spread more love. Oh, oh, oh. Perfect love. Supernatural love. Your love.
Good morning. Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild, and I am Debbie G. It's time for a cup of grata, and that's a cup of grata with a shot of expression and 2 squirts of reality. And I have a really cool co-squirt today. You guys ready for this? Her name is HOllis Citron, and I'm just so excited. She's on a mission to make creativity accessible to everyone, uh, and to everyone in the world. She is a creative inspirer, seasoned teacher, and founder of I Am Creative at Express Yourself Publishing. Hollis is very passionate about empowering people to with their own voice and talents, and wants to shout from the rooftops that being creative is not just about drawing and painting. I am so excited about this conversation. So without further ado, please welcome Hollis. Hello, darling. Good morning.
Oh, hold on. Good morning. I thought I was on mute. Hi. Thank you so much for having me in the space. So happy to be here.
I'm thrilled. Well, it's good morning time for a cup of grata, and that's what we're having. Cup of gratitude for everybody that's in the audience right now. Start typing into the chat. Who are you grateful for? And let's just dive right in. Let's get a little bit of background. So you were a teacher. At what
I
time?
was. Yes, I was 30 years. So art teacher. So I still consider myself that. It's just kind of tweaking the words a little bit. Now it's like a creative ambassador, a creative inspirer. So yeah, I started teaching at like 21 years old, and I'm 54. So however many years that's been.
I freaking love this. This is awesome. Well, teachers are they're such special. Anybody who's sharing their knowledge with others to help them be a better version of themselves, I think is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So talk to me about this journey into being a creative inspirer.
Whew, it's amazing how it all works. If you go back to like when I was a kid, I don't know how you were. I wasn't one of those kids that knew exactly what I wanted to be. I was just very, I don't know. I was just doing things and wasn't thinking I'm going to be this when I grow up. So as life kind of happened and you get into high school, and at that time it was, the traditional kind of college route kind of thing. I was like, you know what? I've always kind of liked the arts, and my parents were supportive. I ended up going to art school. My guidance counselor told me I'd never get in, but
Okay.
he was wrong. So I went to art school, did that whole thing, ended up I studied ceramics. I graduated, and life just kind of kicked in. It's like, okay, Hal, what are you going to do now? So I ended up, it's just interesting how the universe kind of presents. And I got into teaching, and I was very shy. So I was, I could be around people and all this kind of stuff, but I would turn every shade of purple. Like I had this major blushing thing going on, and it wasn't pretty purple. It was like hives purple. It was like,
Oh my God, really? Oh,
it was
gee.
horrible. So it kept me small for a really long time. But I
Okay.
say all of this because it was all part of the process and evolving, and how, like I said, the universe presents, and was like,
Mhm.
this residency opportunity came up and said, you have to teach with it. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I have to teach? And my mother was a teacher for 33 years in the Philly school system. And anyway, I ended up doing that and got over that hurdle and was like, whew, okay. And then I ended up moving out to California. I started to teach anyway. I just got into teaching, and it's all of these situations, just growth, growth, and growth. I've worked in lots of spaces, both traditional and non-traditional. Non-traditional meaning homeless shelters, artists in residencies, having my own businesses, to more traditional being public, private, and charter school systems. So I
I'm
left.
digging this.
I left 3 years ago from the job that I was at, the charter school system in Philly. I've predominantly worked in underserved communities, and I just got that piece of paper saying, "Are you coming back in the fall?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I need." When my sixth, she was 15 at the time, I think. She looked at me and she said, "What are you so angry at? Are you angry at me? Are you angry at your
Mm.
job? Like, what are you angry at?" And I was just taking on everything. And I don't know if it's being the woman thing, the mom thing, the doing everything thing, but being an empath and working with the population that I was working with for so long, I was just taking on everything and wanted to fix everything and wanted to be the best at this and that. And I just couldn't be. So I was like, I had the support of my husband and was like, you know what? I need to go out on my own, and I want to work with adults in this whole adulting thing, and why we deny ourselves joy and happiness, because we are our own best client. And um,
Always.
yeah, so
Yep.
that's kind of
Yep.
like a shortened version of everything.
Well, I love the short version of it. What I'm picking up is I want to talk about artist in residency. You did artist in residency.
Yeah.
Did you travel all over to do that?
Well, I did artisan residencies for organizations. So basically, like in
Okay.
New York, when we lived there for 8 years, I worked for an organization called Studio on a School. So they would send us into spaces, being homeless shelters, being private schools,
Wow.
public schools, in all boroughs. And we would go in, and they had an amazing program. We would work with the kids, the teachers, and adults. And it was all very process oriented, and it was all about using the materials and how to use your imagination. And they were just wonderful because they got it from every angle.
Right.
I've worked with Rutgers, going into Camden, and going into all different kinds of schools, doing professional developments. So those are the kinds of artists and residencies.
I love this. So I'm going to ask some obvious questions, but I want your reasoning. Why is it so important that people tap into their imagination and their creativity?
Oh my God. Because to me, creativity goes beyond a pencil and a paintbrush. So it goes beyond the societal definition of you have to know how to draw or paint. So what my mission is, because my biggest pet peeve has always been when you say your niceties of what you do. Hi, I'm an art teacher, went to art school. People immediately they're like, I can't draw or paint. Like there's this defensiveness in their voice and their body
Yeah.
language, and feeling like this, anxiety. I'm like, neither can I. Like I went to art school, but that's not my thing. Like I'm more three-dimensional. That's my expression. So in starting I Am Creative, what my mission is to expand this definition. So why it's important is because I want people to realize and understand that creativity is in everything that we do. It's as soon as we wake up, we're creating our day. You're creating what you're putting on your body. If you're putting makeup on, not putting makeup on, what your hair looks like, what you're eating, what you're choosing to do for the day. Like, this is all a creation. But when you get it to the fact of what people do for a living, or do for their things that make them happy, like I tell business people, you are so incredibly creative. Like, you're utilizing verbal skills. You're utilizing your imagination to have something that started in your mind, and then in collaboration or on your own, you sculpted it and shaped it into being. Like, all of this is a creative nature. It doesn't have to be about working on a canvas. To person being a scientist, you're working in a lab, you're looking through a microscope, you're putting together all these different things in order to come up with a solution. Like, it's all creative. So I know for a fact that when people see it within these terms, their life changes.
This is just rock solid awesome. Because what you're doing is you're giving people inspiration. You're helping them find their inspiration, their creative spark. And I think that this is amazing. You also said something that I love, and that you're talking to somebody and say, this used to be in your mind. Anybody out there ever have anything in their mind and then help to create it in reality? I have. I mean, it's just so much fun. I love that. Joe says, he's my husband. He says, I love that explanation, Hollis. I've always identified creativity with art and not in just everyday life. He loves that. I do too. And Bob, good morning. I'm grateful for you too. Kelly, Kathy, you guys have any questions, type it in. So what's one of your favorite stories from somebody that you worked with and their aha moment that you remember?
There's so many, but I feel drawn to actually share this story. So when I was doing an artist in residency back in the 90s, so
Yeah.
I don't remember which number, I think it was like 96, 97, something like that. I was going into Brooklyn, into this particular school system, and I would go into, I think it was for like 8 weeks. So I would go into each classroom. Like I said, I'd work with the parents, the kids, the children. And in this one particular class, it was an inclusion class. So there was a general ed and a special ed teacher. And there would be 6 weeks of each process. So in this particular one, we were doing collage. So it was collage, painting, sculpture, and clay, and wood sculpture and clay. So we were working with collage, and anyway, doing the presentation, the hands-on, and then a sharing. So we were in the sharing part. So people saying what they liked about what they did. Other people get a chance to comment. And this one particular boy who is a selective mute. So he's a kindergartner.
Okay.
So he did not speak.
Okay.
He raised his hand to talk. And in my head, I'm doing a party. I'm just like, oh my God, I haven't been in this class this long, but oh my God, this kid wants to talk. Well, one of the teachers was a screamer. So he screamed at him. And he screamed, you want to talk? You want to talk. You never want to talk. He goes, fine, talk. In my head, every expletive is going off in my brain.
I can only imagine. Oh my word!
I'm thinking, what are you doing? This kid, first of all, is in kindergarten. He's this little body. I mean, you don't do it to anybody. But so his body turned in, and I'm thinking, okay, this isn't my room. How do I handle the situation? I was like, okay, real quick. I went over. I don't even remember this boy's name, and I will never forget him. It's been 25 years. I went over, I held up his artwork. I showed it to the class. I said, who would like to tell him something that they like about it? Some kids raised their hand. They said things that they liked. We moved on. And then I went back to him as we were cleaning up. And I said, sweetie, what did you want to say? And he whispered in my ear, I like the color blue.
Oh.
And I cry sometimes when I tell this.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And this boy, who I don't even remember his name, who I hope he is alive still because he had a really rough time of it. He had to be with this man every day. I only had to be with him once a week for 3 months. So this boy, really, I have been teaching, for all of this time since, but as I created I Am Creative, I realized he is really one of the main inspirations because I never want anybody to be quieted. I never want anybody to be shut down. I never want anybody to feel small and not validated. So,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. There's just the acknowledgement in the classroom that he was getting from the other students gave him that I can feel it, like that did something. And I'm imagining that was a pinnacle point in his life that he may not even remember, but that may have given him all of the courage that he needed. And courage is a word. So courage and creativity. Talk to me about those two things.
To me, I define creativity as your expression, as your voice. I think that it can take courage to be able to use your voice. I think that courage is something, I believe that we have to go within. I always say you have to go within, and in order to be able to go out. So in order to connect to anything or anybody on the outside, you have to go within to be able to understand yourself, to be able to like yourself, to be able to know what you like, to be able to know what you don't like. And I think often that can take courage to do that, because a lot of times, a lot of people are kind of skimming the surface.
Yeah.
Because we're so caught up in life and we're so caught up in responsibility and how busy we are, and how, not to take away from what people have to do, but come on. I mean, we don't always have to be as busy as we are. We make ourselves sick.
I love that you're saying this. I got to tell you something. Yesterday, we kicked it on the couch and watched movies. We were having this conversation last night, so this must be something in the collective air right now that's needing to be talked about, is that slowing down, that taking a moment to breathe. Why do you need to be so busy? Being too busy is, I think, a distraction from the creative aspect of our nature. I just love that you're bringing all this up, because I was a graphic designer for years. And I remember back when I was like in my early 20s, somebody said something about how I was going to be doing artwork or doing this, whatever. And I'm like, I can't draw a straight line. What's wrong with you? So as you're sitting here talking, I'm realizing that I recognized I had this creative outlet. I had to do it through the computer. It was just different. But I've lived this experience where I didn't think I had any creative talent. And the creative talent, as we are seeing here, for everybody who's just joining us right now, we're talking about what creative talent is, how to tap into your creative nature, and how it can inspire you in your life. So let's keep going. And I love how you talked about courage, because it takes that courage. So how do you help people today? Well, let's go back. So you stopped. You said 3 years ago, I'm not going back, because your daughter said, Mom, I don't know what's up, but like, really? And you're like going, okay, because you and I are the same age, and I know this was our time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with that, Mom? So what did you do with it?
So what did I do with it? First, I want to acknowledge the fact of what you said about being a graphic designer and needing to do things in different ways. And I just want to say that to people is things don't always look the same. They don't have to be this traditional way. So
Right.
I think it's important to realize that. And we often, and you've heard this plenty of times, I'm sure, but people say things and they stay in us. And you just have to, we understand this more as we get older, but you hope to spread it to people that are younger. It's not about us, it's about them. So
Yeah.
but these things often stay in us. But we got to release them. We got to let them go. So what did I do after I said no, after I'm not coming back? So I started I Am Creative, and what I do with that is experiential kits that I create. And what I mean by that is that they are all different kinds these are arts-based things that I put everything in a kit. So nobody has to think about a thing. They don't have to go out and buy anything. They don't have to. I have instructions and videos and things to kind of guide people along the way.
Wow.
I work with organizations and I help design experiential kits for their people so we can kind of get in this together. I've created something called Your Creative Shui. It's like feng shui, but your creative shui, and it has 7 elements in order to get your life in balance for joy and happiness. I started a podcast, which has had a few different iterations, called Creative Conversations with HOllis Citron, where it's all about my mission, where this expanding the definition of what creativity is. I've spoken to about 170 people now asking the same 3 questions. How do you define creativity? How do you incorporate it into your life? And why do you think it's important? And we have a conversation, and not one person has said creativity is about drawing or painting. People say creativity is courage. Creativity is that magic spark. Creativity is how you show up in the world. I mean, it's just been so incredible. And then in April, however many months ago that is, in April of this year, I was in a multi-author book about a year ago, and I had a chance to be a part of this community. God bless you. And
Thank you.
I was like, this was such an incredible experience to not have to worry about anything else, to just write, to be part of a community and make all these connections. So it was a great experience. And I found myself a year later actually starting my own publishing house. And if you told me that that would have happened, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But everything, it just all reinforces each other because it's all about community. It's all about people telling their story. It's all about people just creating a safe space in order to express themselves.
I love you. God. I do, because I know firsthand how important this is. And I want to just good morning to Dr. Safi. I love you, Safi. I miss you too, baby. Big time. We got to connect soon. And Luke says, I found my way here. I love you, Luke. I've been on my journey to tapping into my creativity and was just talking to a friend about this. So Luke, we're going to use you and Hollis, what can you tell him to do? Like, what kind of steps could he take to start tapping into his creative nature?
Well, actually, I'm wondering like how far along the journey he is on it. Like, where are you in this, Luke? Are you just kind of starting to dive into it? Is there things that you've been wanting to do, but you've kind of denied yourself? There's kind of like people are at all different stages. So until he writes back, I'll say the first thing I usually say is permission. You have to give yourself permission to just do things that feel good to you. It's that simple. And it's doing things in baby steps. You can't go from A to Z and just be like, it's not a straight line. There's like little baby steps, there's zigzags, there's curves, there's lots of stuff that happens, just like life in the middle. So it's even things of starting, if you're not used to nurturing yourself and actually kind of expressing yourself, then it's like, I start off like, okay, what kind of drink makes you feel good in the morning? Like start to just kind of nurture and kind of like get yourself into those. What kind of like, if you were going to do your hair differently, how would you do your hair? If you could like clothes, why don't you go out and buy something that makes you feel good? And once people start to kind of like ease in and kind of they feel good about themselves and they're like, ooh, you know what? I've always wanted to do this, or I've been wanting to do this. It's just been so long. I haven't allowed myself to do it. Then they can kind of like ease into the process. And usually if it's something that requires, even like if it's cooking or if it's exercising or writing or whatever it looks like, then I say 10 minutes. Start with 10 minutes. And then just kind of like ease in. And then those 10 minutes will turn into 20 minutes, which will turn into an hour because you lose sense of time.
Oh my God, isn't that the truth of it? We totally lose sense of time when you're in your career. It's sort of like when you were playing when you were little and you were just playing and you're in your own world of creating and imagination. And we definitely forget how to tap into that. This is beautiful. Remember, the first thing you're going to do is give yourself permission. I loved that. If somebody wants to type that into the chat for us, the first thing you do to tap into your creativity is give yourself permission. So Luke says, I've always had an artistic creativity, but was told not to stay away from it, has its own future, but getting back into drawing creative music or ideas for stories are overwhelming.
Yes, I hear you. So, Luke, pick one right now. Pick one. And even if it's combining, I don't know if you're so creating music or ideas for stories, getting back into drawing. So, why don't you, whichever one feels good to you right now, I would say, let's just say it's drawing. Well, maybe you could be listening to music while you're drawing. And then you could just kind of get into that process. Maybe the drawing is just doodling. Maybe the drawing is looking up things in order to, maybe you kind of know how to draw and you just want to go out or create however you want to. If you're more realistic, if you're abstract, just kind of start the process and don't be too judgmental on yourself. If you want to go look up YouTube videos, if you want to, however you want to do it, just start. And then these other things, you're going to start getting downloads. You're going to start getting like, ooh. And as you're drawing, you might be like, ooh, I have some words for music. So just write them down. It's permission and one thing at a time. Start with the 10, 15 minutes so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Because we tend to, like, when we get excited, we put all of our energy in and then we lose steam and then it just doesn't continue.
True. I do know about that.
You
I
experience
definitely
that?
do. Oh yeah. I mean, oh yeah. Especially, yes, totally. Like I'll just put everything into that and then you lose that the momentum to keep going with it, you know. I'm loving this. So I want to say good morning, John Fiore. Hello. I'm glad that you love that. John is our EFT expert in the house,
Ooh,
which I
cool.
love. Oh yeah,
Hello,
he's
everybody.
amazing. Seriously, we have some great people on this morning. It's just so good to see everybody here. Ask any questions that are coming up for you. Luke, let me know how that's resonating. What do you think? And oh, here we go. He said, I missed it. I love that. Give my permission. Set intentions to create for 10 minutes. I'm taking a drawing class to get back into it. That's awesome. Luke, Luke, Luke is one of our fellow Taya Trust Your Abundance. He's one of our graduates and he's just amazing. Actually, he's on his way to becoming a coach. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Drawing is what I am focusing on now. So love you picked that and advised on it. So much love and appreciation. Luke, thank you, sweetheart. We love you.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And I I don't know any other way to express myself better than being creative. Because the opposite of that, I'm imagining if you weren't tapping into your creativity, it may have been why you were not so happy, you
Yes.
know, back 3 years ago.
Well, I think it just kind of built up. It was overwhelmed too, because we get so caught up in our heads. I wasn't carving out time for myself to be expressive. Expressive meaning I wasn't doing my own expression of visual arts. I wasn't really spending time with my family, like good quality time. I wasn't going for walks, really. I wasn't really cooking and really being in the moment. So, because I was just so caught up in everything,
Yeah.
I realized I needed to be like, so that's how I see creativity. And just really, everybody understand it's within everything that you do. You're constantly creating. Parenting is a creativity. How your relationships are a creativity. It's within everything that we do and the words that we speak and how. So when you start to look at it from those perspectives, there's just so much to it. But at the same time, it's just all within us. It's kind of like we don't have to constantly be looking out. We know.
We totally do. Oh my God, for sure. So, one of the things that is really cool is that I met you on a Law of Attraction summit. You were speaking on it,
Mhm.
a Neo Positivity Summit. So, listen, y'all, we're gonna do a slight shift. We're gonna take creativity and we're gonna work this into the Law of Attraction and also how that you've seen this show up in your own life because that's where I'm feeling guided to take you right now.
Well, so I really think, to tell you the truth, I was very resistant to the idea of law of attraction. I tend to be
No
very,
joke, huh?
I tend to be a concrete thinker. So I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
So there's the Virgo
Okay.
in me. There's the creative aspect of me, and there's the Virgo in me. And I'm kind of like, well, if I
Okay.
don't see it, then come on. I mean, if this is what's in front of me, then
Yeah.
then but so here's my but. Usually nothing good follows the but.
Yeah, but she's gonna. Oh, she just yelled at you, y'all. She yelled at.
You bet. I got into more mindset work, and I really got
Yeah.
into more of the, the be do have, the contrast, the awareness, and just really understanding that being present in that moment is the gift in what is attracted to you. If I'm cranky and if I'm coming up like, then what's going to come back at me? Like, just like my daughter said, and my son he didn't say it in his words, but yeah, I mean, that's what you get. You run around and you're like angry at everybody, then why do you think you feel bad and everybody's not nice to you? Because you're not in a good
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Probably.
So that was a huge transition for me. Was really, again, going within, doing the mindset work, and then just, God, like 100 pounds lifted off.
I'm loving that. So, mindset work. What is mindset work for you?
Mindset work is meditation. It's, Abraham Hicks, Gabby Bernstein, Brene Brown,
Totally.
just like all of these people, all these ideas of just bringing back to yourself, and which then, like I keep saying, goes outward. So that's what it means to me. I set kind of a routine where I do journaling, where I do meditation, where I've like organized my time, like, in because I tend to be like all over with, again, generating a lot of ideas, and then things would be like come to a standstill. So on I'm trying to remember, on Google Calendar, time blocking. There we
Okay.
go. Time blocking in pretty colors, where time blocking down to when I'm going to eat, when I'm going to go for a walk. And it's not being so anal retentive of like, okay, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to do this. But it was helpful for me to be able to organize that space to say, Hollis, you are going to now go do your own work. You're going to step away. You're going to do your own work because you're important. You're worthy. In order for all of this other stuff to happen, you got to fill yourself up. So now you're going to go back and do this of what you need to do for the podcast or whatever. But this time blocking was incredibly helpful to be productive and to feel good, if that
I
makes
love
sense.
this. Yeah, because you're actually scheduling in time for yourself.
Yes.
We can schedule meetings with everybody else, and so what I'm hearing you say overall is bringing yourself to the importance that you should be, and also being present. So this is another thing that came up this weekend. We were talking about that too. It's about being present. I remember when I first started hearing about being present, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I'm right fucking
Right.
here. What do you mean? You want me to be present? And I just didn't get it till I got it.
Right. Right.
And it was like, oh, you mean actually actively train my brain to stay here in the room instead of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn somewhere off in the galaxy. Oh, whether I'm sitting back thinking about things that have happened or I'm going into the future to worry about things that haven't happened, those things were never productive. So to be present was a really big deal because it's like that's the one thing that we're able to do. How does presence work with the imagination?
I think when you're present, you're actually recognizing your imagination. Because if you're not present, you're just hearing chatter. You're just hearing like noise, and
Yeah.
usually it's not good noise. It's kind of like, well, why didn't you do that? And where are you going to go? And when are you going to do this? And why didn't you do that? And da da da. So being present You're in the moment. And I love what you said, because you don't know until you know. So it's, don't go back, and it's like, and one thing I've really progressed on is not beating myself up for things. Of, okay,
Yep.
okay, how you screwed up, or okay, whatever, that didn't go well, move on, and just laugh about it, because life is too freaking short. Like,
Oh my God, right?
I'm being
Seriously?
seriously, it's crazy.
Way too short.
It's, I mean, we have stuff. Life is life. It presents, but how you react and how you respond, two totally different things.
That's it. That's it right there. 100%. And that's been my experience. Absolutely. So Luke says the time blocking is what that he needs to do to have structure in his life. So he's going to start taking advantage of his Google Calendar. I love that, Luke.
Go, Luke.
Seriously, he's just like this bubbly, bright spirit that you
Love
just
it.
want to be around because he's just so awesome. And I love it when we're on here and you get that word that you need to hear to just get you back on that space. But I also want to talk about just allowing yourself to screw up, because I'm under the belief that you can't really screw shit up. You can't mess it up. How can you really mess it up? You can't. How many things have we been through and nothing got really messed up? Sure, it shifted or whatever, but it was just an experience to show, teach, grow, whatever. And so this idea that we're beating ourselves up, how do you step out of that? Do you just do self-talk with it? What are you doing to stop that uh horrible thing we do to ourselves?
Usually is take a breath. I take a breath and I'm just like, if it's something, it depends. If I need to go for a walk, I go for a walk. If I need to go pet the cats, I'll pet the cats. If I need to turn on music and dance, I'll turn on music and dance to kind of like get
Like that
energy
one.
out. If I need to go like call somebody up and be like, vent, venting is good. I could be, it's not like focusing all my energy on there, but it needs to be expressed, because if you don't express, you repress. So when you have those people around you that are your supporters, if I go to my husband, if I call up my two people in my accountability group and be like, look, I really feel like I screwed up. And they'll just be like, HOllis, seriously. They can see me from the outside and kind of be like, do you really think it's that bad? I'm like, no, actually, it's really not. And even if it was, there's nothing that really can't be fixed. So, I mean, those are ways that I do that, but I also want to revisit the idea about making mistakes. Nothing gets invented without mistakes. When you go to Edison and the light bulb, what is it, like 5,000 times or something he messed up. So he realized 5,000 ways not to do what he was doing in creating
Completely.
electricity. So if he didn't make those 5,000 prior mistakes, then we wouldn't have. So it's just that idea that so often you need to go through that. And that's often where we find, when we get off the path of what we expected to happen, is so often when the best things show up. So there's this amazing kids book I want to show you.
Yeah, that was really good. I hope you all just caught that.
Beautiful Oops. Did you ever see this book?
Oh, no, I love it though. I can already tell.
And it's amazing for adults. It's not just for kids. So I'm just going to open this up. So for example, it shows a whole bunch of things. Like, I actually have a kit called Your Beautiful Oops Kit, of the book and all different supplies to make mistakes and create from it. So it says here, if the paper gets bent, then what could you turn it into? You could turn it into a penguin and this kind of thing. If
Oh,
you
that's awesome.
have a scrap piece of paper, then you could take a piece of newspaper and you could rip it. And then when you ripped it, it looks like a dog. Can be fun to play with. So it's kind of like breaking the boundaries. So that was one of the things I would have in the classroom, is we would have 4 different rules that we would say, or expectations every day. How do we treat the supplies with respect? We treat others with respect. And then the last one was, what if we make a mistake? Beautiful oops, try again. And we would say it every day. So it got
Beautiful
into
oops.
their psyche and they're thinking. So they weren't just either ripping up the paper or throwing it away or building a sculpture and breaking it. And I mean, sometimes you do take it apart to put it back together again, but it wasn't done just out of anger, just like, ugh. Because so often when something goes not how you expected it, you're like, ooh, that actually was a really cool idea.
Isn't that awesome? I love this
Um,
because I think about all of the different things that we have in this world. Chocolate. How do you think? I mean, chocolate was probably an oops. I don't know that it was an oops, but I'm guessing chocolate was an oops. You know, I mean, butter. I bet butter was an
I
oops.
know. How did they?
Seriously, who in the world's going to sit there and think, well, if I just do this thing with this, I mean, who knows how, but I'm imagining that there's so many things out there in this world that were an oopsie. Just, and I love this because I also know that no matter how much I think sometimes in life that I've just, oh man, I completely bloopered this one. No, we didn't, because we just found out it's beautiful. Oops. Anybody else have a beautiful oops they want to talk about that they could just go,
Yes,
something
please.
you've been beating yourself up about, and now you can see it maybe a little bit differently, that it was just a oops a daisy. That's it.
And then even I want to share, like, so when I had a chance to have this residency way back when, again, I talked about the whole turning purple thing. And I was like, oh my God, my worst nightmares. I'm going to have to come in with my portfolio. And there's going to be like 20 people sitting around staring at
Mhm.
me, interviewing me. Well,
Yeah.
there wasn't 20, there was 15. So they're
A
like,
good manifestation there,
they're
Missy.
exactly. They're in a semicircle staring at me. I'm turning every shade of every color. And I walked out and I was like, well, I screwed that up. Like
Ugh.
in my head, I'm like, that just totally, but you know what? I got it. So they called me up not too much longer and I got it. So what I'm telling that because what we think is a mistake isn't necessarily seen by others is that because we're often our own worst critic and we're just stuck in the way we think something should be.
The loop de loop of hell. I did this wrong. The beating ourselves up loop. It's definitely not conducive to getting us to move forward. That's for sure. But I'm loving it because you had the courage to meet the 15 people. I want to do a little bit of a shift now and get into what you're doing today and how people can actually work with you.
Yeah, thank you. So what am I doing today? So I have my experiential kits. I have my creative shui, which is a series where it could be just a chat and I create, it could be a one-off chat and I create an experiential kit especially for you based off of your interests. Um, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 8 weeks. So that's a way with Creative Shui. I work with individuals or organizations. You could go to my shop and purchase an experiential kit. Or I work with organizations and saying, look, I have these interests. We're thinking of this, and I make it especially for your people and or teach. And then I also have my podcast. And then last but not least, my publishing house, my new multi-author book out is called Invisible No More, Stepping into the Spotlight. So right now I am looking for contributing authors to write 3,000 words about what that means to them. And there's tons of community and support and guest speakers and #1 bestseller on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, all that good stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's seriously incredible. So you have one out already. You're doing volume 2?
So my first one was called Creativity is Whatever You Want It to Be. And that was amazing. I love this cover to show off, to brag here. So this is Creativity is Whatever You Want It to Be. It's on Kindle and on paperback
That is a
now.
cool cover.
I had amazing 20 contributors who talked about their version of what creativity meant to them, which meant trauma and how they got through it, pivoting in life, creativity saved my life, just amazing stories, I have to say. And yeah, this one is called Invisible No More. And I'm also doing solo books as well. So yeah, it's exciting.
That's super cool.
It's just about people telling their stories, and creating a safe space for people to be expressive and to share, because it reaches people on when we use our voice, whether it's our sound voice, our writing stories, drawing pictures, taking pictures, making food, whatever it is, it's sharing it with people and getting it out into the world, which has an impact. And you just need to do it.
I completely agree with you. And I love this. And I love that you're doing this because this is, I am a firm believer that tapping back into our creativity, just like you know that it is. I know what it does, what it changes, what happens. It's an amazing experience to get back into your actual natural flow. It's amazing. I was watching The Shift again by Dr. Ray Dyer. You know that movie, The Shift? Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
seen it?
I've
And
heard
that
of it, and I haven't seen it, but I've heard
it's
of
on
it.
you. It's on YouTube. It's free. And honestly, seriously, it's worth watching
Mm-hmm.
because some of the thing practicing the art of non-interference was one of the things, back to that natural flow. But then one of the characters in the movie she was a mom now, she was too busy, but she remembered what it was like to draw or to, and that was kind of the essence of her story, was tapping back into what her natural flow of life is. What is your natural flow and your natural state of being? Not the one that you were told and that you were or to be or any of that stuff. It was just what's your natural state. And finding that key, that natural state, is the most important thing anyone could do for themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of people use external things to get to the natural state, and that therefore never the natural state, right? If
Yeah.
you're using drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, whatever the case may be, to get to your natural state, you're probably not going to get there.
Yeah.
And anything that I've seen in life so far is that this desperate search to just feel like we did when we were young. And I firmly believe that that's what you're bringing out to the planet right now through I Am Creative and through being an inspirer for people to tap back into their imagination. And I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
So I have put up your Facebook page. I don't have your website. Is there a website that we can put up?
Yeah, it's I am creative Philly, PHILLY.com. And before I
I
forget,
am
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. So I am creativephilly.com.
You got
Right
it.
there is the website. And Luke says, I just pulled up The Shift on YouTube. I've not heard of it. Oh, dude, it's killer. It's so freaking awesome. It's just, if you like Wayne Dyer's teachings and you like the teachings of the Tao Te Ching, definitely I think that it's awesome. But you were going to say something. What was that?
I just want to remind him that, Luke, when you're doing time blocking, you can have fun with the colors too. So make sure to kind of change it up so it doesn't all, because it automatically comes up in like a light blue. You can make it whatever color you want. So it just is kind of fun to look at it's just kind of pretty to look at when you have like, oh, it's purple, it's green, it's yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
And what you were saying about getting into your natural flow, it creates joy and happiness, which is all that we want. I'm not professing that you have to go out and quit your job and be like, screw this, I'm gonna go out and be the painter that I've always wanted to be, or I'm gonna go travel. But if that's what you really want and you can do that and you have the means to do that and it's gonna make you happy, I promise you there is not a day that goes by that I question the choice that I made. There is every day. I am saying to my kids, to my husband too, I am so frigging grateful that I can create my own schedule, that I can be here to make these calls for my kids that I need to make, that I can go for the walk that I want to go for in the middle of the day, that I can hang out with my husband, that I can make my lunch in the middle of the day and then make my own schedule. Like, there isn't a day that goes by, which then promotes happiness. I show up to the world in a different way where I'm more present and full of love.
That's it. That's it. We have something we in Taya that we do. It's called Trust Your Abundance, and we do this thing called detuning. And Luke, you know that this is true. There is no better place to detune but then in your creative nature, in that natural flow. Because what you said is that that's your happiness and joy state. And we all know if your vibration is at happiness and flow, what's going to attract to you. If you're showing up for the world in a different way, just like you just said, HOllis, then what is going to come back to you? What are you seeing show up in your life because you do this?
Exactly. Well said.
So I am thanking you so much for being here today. It's been absolutely amazing. Is there any last words you want to leave with everyone before we head out?
So I want to thank you. I really appreciate the space. You're doing amazing things, and yeah, you're just putting it out there and shining your light. So I really appreciate that. And I just can't reinforce enough, just like I challenge you today, just pick one thing for 10 minutes that you've been wanting to do. Just do it. I know there's time restrictions on if one of the things is jumping out of a plane. But if it is jumping out of a plane, then make the damn appointment to jump out of the plane. Just do that one thing that you've been wanting to do, and don't question yourself. Don't sit there and be like, oh, is that the right decision? You know what you want. You do. You don't have to reach out to all this extra stuff. So yeah, one thing.
I love that. One thing, guys. One thing. Luke says, I love and appreciate you both for your time and effort and sharing your knowledge and experience.
Oh,
you're welcome.
Thank you, Luke. You're welcome. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate you.
Love all of you guys that were here today. I'm going to be back on in about 5 minutes with, less than that. I'm going to be back on Wow. I'm going to be back on shortly with the moon astrologer, Claudia Thompson, and we're going to be talking all about the moon this week and what you can expect with the moon. I'm a Libra moon.
I don't know what moon I am.
There's this thing called CathyAstrology.com, and it's on there.
Okay.
And you can go in and I just Googled it to find out what moon I was. It's quite interesting because the moon is your sensitivity house. It's your behind the scenes house. It's your subconscious house, apparently. So Libra versus Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius sun, so it's quite interesting.
Well, I'll tune in.
Thank you. All right, everybody. I love you. We will see you again. I'll see you again in just a few. Bye for now.